Welcome into the conversation today, your next installment of 8 minutes and 20 seconds of resilience, making this your urgency meeting. Today's topic is called wealth inequality. Wealth inequality. Now, I'm sure, given the chaos and the confusion on crypto, stocks, derivatives, digital currency, coins being taken out of circulation, inflation, things that many of us have no influence on, but we're definitely feeling the impact of those topics. And the wealth inequality typically is part of the conversation about the chasm between the so-called rich and the so-called poor, or between the elites and you and I, the common workers, the haves and the growing number of have-nots. I have absolutely no insights into any financial measurements or metrics or experiences. I made this statement for this topic today simply to make sure that I can, put some parameters around the conversation about wealth. But also, for me, when I talk about wealth inequality, I want to use a backstory on financials. I'm trying to make sure that I can simply make sure I can afford what I buy. And I try to tamper down or reduce my number of extravagances and wants and new shiny things and focus on my material needs. Pay the bills, make sure we have gas in the house and make sure the water's running. But shoot, I went through 2 bankruptcies, 3 divorces. So again, that's not a reference you want to use as a basis for your interest in salient money issues. I certainly have no reputable experiences in that realm to give any advice on financials. Just for me, I'm trying to understand for myself late in the game, but making sure I can understand just the basics of financial things. But while the news for the past few decades has repeated the heavy trend towards this split in wealth, this chasm widening, I found this topic of wealth inequality worthy of a short discussion today. So certainly, we all seem to need more money or more currency to pay these bills, to buy food, to have running water and access to electricity. But some people who choose to go off the grid, to get out of urban city areas and live with only necessities and without extravagances, that would probably be a good idea if you can do it. But that might also describe a small part of the population. Or not. Maybe there's more doing that successfully, but we don't hear about them because, what? They're off the grid. But I don't know, just as an observation. But perhaps if that approach is where the true wealth really is, think about it. Off the grid. It sounds sexy and, revolutionary and, militant a bit. But think about that. Maybe that's where the true wealth is. Redefining, refining, re-observing what is necessary and what is extra pure or pure gravy. That realization of what we all have before we begin and continue the practice of straight consumption and acquisition for pleasure and status and comparison and competition. Maybe that's something we should start thinking about or considering. Maybe that's a little bit out of sync, off kilter with what we do need to focus on. So in no way will this mindset or heart set take us into the promised land if we go off the grid and focus on just the basics, bread and water. But maybe just for these precious moments today, we can consider the wealth that we do have within all of us, that kingdom and truth that the prophets stated before. And no, maybe we don't get a armored truck of gold that backs into our driveway and dumps that stuff into our garages, and we have all these millions in the driveway. No, that's not how it works. But consider this. If we can observe and pursue the message and purpose given to each of us uniquely to believe, to have faith, hope, and the work. With that observation, with the awareness of who we are and what we have at our disposal, that currency is the wealth. That internal currency is the wealth. It comes down to how you have defined and refined what your drive is. I'm asking you, I know it's a stretch. I know that is a great idea on paper or on audio. I get it. But it comes down to, you want that car, you want that house, you want those shoes. You probably can't see, how can my internal wealth get that for me? I'm just going back to what I said in a couple of episodes before. Without that foundational construct, infrastructure of who you are, what you already have at your power and force within you, getting the other stuff, those dollars and those coins and those shekels, it can make you feel better, but only temporarily. If we don't have that thing, I don't have a word for it, that thing that makes us who we are and makes us powerful as we choose to be. So I keep asking you, and forgive me for saying this over and over again, but I'm asking you to be present and current with the wealth that you already have. You can spend it, share it, as consistent as the constant love, power, and force that we already have. And that is all we need to serve, to service, and to maintain. I know I'm asking a lot, and even you taking these words into your ear and maybe into your heart. But just think about that. Not focus on the number of dollars in your pockets or in your account. How much wealth and love do you have inside of you? That's well spent, or it should be. As always, it's 8:20.